332 BC, having overthrown the Persian Empire, Alexander the Great enters Egypt. Aged just 24, he had already conquered half of the known world. In the Nile Delta, he found a small fishing village called Rakotis. Behind the village lies Lake Mareotis, with the Mediterranean Sea beyond that. Alexander the Great saw something that no one else had seen before. This will be his city, a bridge between East and West. It will be the greatest city the world has ever seen. Alexander is not building a city. He brings his architect, Dinocrates of Rhodes, with him, and asks him to design something unprecedented. The result is a perfect grid plan. Streets running north-south and east-west, wide boulevards, a massive harbor. A causeway would connect Pharos Island to the mainland. This will be a Hellenistic masterpiece. It's a city designed by a genius. June 323 BCE. In Babylon, Alexander dies aged 32. He never sees his city completed. However, his generals fought over his empire, and one of them, Ptolemy, took Egypt. Ptolemy knows that Alexandria is the key. He brings Alexander's body there. He makes it his capital. The dream doesn't die with Alexander. It's just beginning. 290 BC. Ptolemy II, son of Ptolemy I, ordered the construction of the Cry. The Pharos Lighthouse, the most important symbol of Alexandria, took 20 years to complete. Once completed, standing at over 100 meters high, it became one of the tallest structures in the ancient world. Visible from 50 kilometers out at sea, the lighthouse was considered one of the 7 wonders of the world. Alexandria was certainly making its mark on the world. 283 BC. Ptolemy I establishes the Library of Alexandria and the Mauson, literally meaning Temple of the Muses. This was not just a library, but the world's first research institute. Scholars from all corners of the known world came here to study subjects such as mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy were all studied here. Every book, every parchment, and every piece of knowledge that the world possessed was brought here. 250 BC. The world's greatest minds are working in Alexandria. Euclid is writing his geometry book, Elements, which is still taught today. Meanwhile, Eratosthenes is calculating the circumference of the Earth with astonishing accuracy. Archimedes worked here before returning to Syracuse. Alexandria is not just gathering knowledge, it is creating knowledge. This was the intellectual pinnacle of humanity in the ancient world. By 240 BCE, the library was estimated to hold 500,000 scrolls. Every ship entering Alexandria's harbor was searched. Any books found are confiscated and copied, and the copies are returned. The originals remained in Alexandria. The Ptolemies are obsessed. They want to bring together every piece of human knowledge, and they're succeeding. 200 BC. Alexandria is at its peak. The lighthouse guides ships from all corners of the Mediterranean. The library houses humanity's accumulated wisdom. With a population of 300,000, it is one of the world's largest cities. Greeks, Egyptians, Jews, and Romans, scholars once walked these same streets. Alexandria's treasures are always captivating, yet they are about to face fire, war, and conquest. 100 BC. The Library of Alexandria reaches its absolute peak. It contains over 700,000 scrolls, containing all the works of Greek philosophy, Egyptian science, Babylonian astronomy, and Persian medicine. All sources, books, and scrolls are translated into Greek. It is the place where almost all of humanity's knowledge was gathered. But Rome is on the rise. Alexandria is about to become a pawn in the Roman civil wars. 51 BC. Cleopatra VII becomes ruler of Egypt at the age of 18. She is intelligent, speaking 9 languages and being educated in many subjects. However, Egypt is bankrupt, a fact of which Rome is aware. She needs allies and power, and Rome. However, Rome is on the verge of being torn apart by civil war. 48 BC. Julius Caesar arrives in Alexandria, pursuing Pompey. Cleopatra seduces him, both politically and romantically. She needed Rome's support. However, Caesar's presence triggers a war in Alexandria. The city is shaken by violent events. Amidst the chaos, a fire breaks out near the harbor. The flames spread. They reach the library. The fire is destroying the harbor warehouses. Inside, 40,000 parchments awaiting placement in the library. They are burning. Although the main library was barely saved, irreplaceable works are lost forever. Plays by Aeschylus and Sophocles, scientific studies, mathematical proofs. Following Caesar's assassination, Cleopatra formed an alliance with Mark Antony. Together, they planned to establish an Eastern Roman Empire with Alexandria as its capital. Attempts were made to rebuild the library. 200,000 scrolls were brought from Pergamon. There is hope. Alexandria can recover. But Octavian, who would become Emperor Augustus, is approaching. 31 BC. The Battle of Actium. Octavian's fleet defeats Antony and Cleopatra. The pair fled to Alexandria. Octavian pursues them, and their fate is sealed. Antony took his own life with his sword. Cleopatra chooses the asp. After 300 years, the Ptolemaic dynasty ends, and Alexandria becomes a Roman province. The dream of an Eastern empire dies in the palace where it was born. 30 BC. Emperor Augustus enters Alexandria. He grants the city, but seizes Egypt's wealth. Alexandria becomes a Roman province. The library survives, but it is now Roman property. The golden age of Ptolemaic science has come to an end. The Roman era in Alexandria begins, and the library's troubles are not yet over. The Library of Alexandria still stands, and Roman scholars still work here. However, the Ptolemies' ambition to gather all knowledge and create the world's greatest library has disappeared. The library is now just another Roman institution. The first fire destroyed 40,000 scrolls. More fires and more losses are inevitable. Alexandria is entering a long and slow period of decline. The greatest library in history has been damaged beyond repair. These wounds will never heal. (1 CE). Under Roman rule, Alexandria had a population of 500,000 and was the second largest city in the empire after Rome. The port never stops. Grain ships transport Egypt's wheat to Rome. Luxury goods flow east and west. The library is in operation. Scholars are at work. Yet beneath this prosperity, something new is stirring. The son of a Jewish carpenter has been crucified in Jerusalem. His followers are spreading a radical new message. Some of them are making their way to Alexandria. AD 42. According to tradition, Saint Mark the Evangelist arrives in Alexandria and starts to preach. The city's Jewish community provided fertile ground for his message. Its members were already familiar with the sacred writings and were awaiting a Messiah. Within decades, Alexandria had become one of the most important centers of Christianity. It was here that the world's first Christian university, the Catechetical School of Alexandria, was established. 250 CE, Emperor Decius issues an order to persecute Christians throughout the empire. In Alexandria, the persecution was particularly brutal. Bishop Origen was imprisoned. Scholars were arrested. Christians are forced to sacrifice to the Roman gods or face death. The Catechetical School goes underground. Yet the faith continues to spread. Persecution can never stop an idea. It only makes it stronger. 313 CE, Constantine legalizes Christianity. Alexandria revolts. The persecuted minority seizes power overnight, and churches are built on the sites of pagan temples. The Catechetical School now operates openly. The bishops of Alexandria became the most powerful church figures in the East. However, this time, significant differences of opinion and tensions arise among Christian clergymen from different sects. Alexandria will also be at the center of this conflict. 391 CE, Emperor Theodosius declares Christianity the only legal religion. Seizing the opportunity, Bishop Theophilus acts in Alexandria. He led a Christian mob to the Serapeum, Alexandria's largest pagan temple and home to a branch of the library. The temple was ransacked, statues were smashed, and parchments were burned, while pagan scholars fled. The library lost its irreplaceable collection. This religious triumph turned into a cultural catastrophe. 415 CE. Hypatia of Alexandria is the greatest mathematician and philosopher of her time. She acts as an advisor to the Roman governor. In an increasingly Christian city, she is pagan. One day, a Christian mob stops her carriage, drags her to a church where they kill her. They then burned her body. Her death symbolizes the loss of reason, tolerance, and knowledge that Alexandria suffered. By 500 AD, the library was a shadow of its former self. Wars, fires, religious uprisings, and intellectual migration had all taken their toll. Each had caused significant damage to the library. The number of parchments, which had numbered 700,000 during the Ptolemaic Golden Age, had now dwindled considerably. The Mausoleum was gone. The scholars had fled. All that remained was a wounded institution in a city in decline. The greatest library in human history was dying, and no one was trying to save it. 640 CE. A new power is sweeping across the world from the Arabian desert. Arab-Muslim armies have already conquered Syria and Palestine. Now, they are advancing towards Egypt. The Byzantine garrison in Alexandria is preparing. The city, which has survived the Persians and religious uprisings, is about to face its next conqueror. And with them comes a question that historians still debate. What will become of the remains of the library? 641 CE. General Amr ibn al-As led the Arab-Muslim army to Alexandria. After a siege lasting several months, the Byzantine garrison surrenders. There was no massacre or mass destruction. By the standards of the ancient world, the city changed hands peacefully. However, everything is about to change. A new language, a new faith, and a new civilization are about to emerge. Alexandria is no longer a Greek city. It is becoming an Arab city. 642 CE. The most debated question in the history of Alexandria. Did the Arabs burn the library? Remained of the library? According to the story, Caliph Omar said, "If the books agree with the Quran, they are unnecessary. If they disagree, they are heretical. If they disagree, they are heretical. Either way, burn them. However, most modern historians believe this story to be a myth. The library was already in decline before the Arabs arrived. The real question is, what happened to the last remaining scrolls? 642 CE, Amr ibn al-As made a decision that determined the fate of Alexandria, choosing not to make it the capital. Instead, he builds a new city near modern-day Cairo, Fustat. For the first time in 300 years, Alexandria loses its political role. Trade declined. Its population declined. Once the largest metropolis in the Mediterranean, the city was forgotten for a long time. 800 CE, the Golden Age of Islam begins. Arab scholars translate Greek texts into Arabic. Thanks to these Arabic translations, the works of Aristotle, Euclid, and Galen were preserved. Some of this knowledge came from the scattered parchments of Alexandria. The Arab scholars are preserving the Greek knowledge that was once held in Alexandria. They are safeguarding the knowledge that Europe lost during its own dark ages. Knowledge survives. It merely changes hands. 1365 CE, King Peter I of Cyprus led the Crusader fleet directly to Alexandria. His army plundered the city for 3 days. Churches, mosques, and warehouses were all looted. Everything is looted and burned. Thousands of people were slaughtered. Any remaining scientific materials are scattered or destroyed. Alexandria has been pillaged by a Western power for the last time. The ancient city, it is now just a shadow of its former Ptolemaic splendor. 1400 CE, the Mamluks rebuild Alexandria following the devastation caused by the Crusaders. A modest recovery begins. The harbor is repaired. Trade resumes, with spices from India and silk from China pass through Alexandria on their way to Europe. The city will never be great again, but it's still alive. The Pharos Lighthouse still stands, though it has been damaged by earthquakes and is no longer visible. It still guides ships. It is the last remnant of ancient glory. 1480 CE, Sultan Qaitbay built a fortress on Pharos Island using stones from the collapsed Lighthouse of Alexandria. This ancient wonder of the world had already collapsed due to earthquakes. Over the centuries, is finally gone. Its stones became the medieval fortress that stands today. The last visible symbol of ancient Alexandria has been destroyed. An era has ended. The citadel of Qaitbay now stands where the lighthouse once guided the ancient world. 1517 CE, the Ottoman Sultan Selim I conquers Egypt. Alexandria becomes part of the vast Ottoman Empire. It is now a provincial city on the edge of a new empire. The harbor barely functioning. Its population has dwindled to perhaps 8,000 from 500,000 at its Roman peak. The greatest city in the ancient world has become a small fishing village. The lighthouse is gone. The library is a memory. But Alexandria is not finished yet. 1700 CE. For nearly 2 centuries, Alexandria slept in Ottoman obscurity. The harbor has silted up completely. Ancient columns are scattered across empty fields. European travelers come seeking the legendary city and find a village of mud brick houses built over marble ruins. The lighthouse has disappeared. But on Pharos Island stands the citadel of Quitebay. Stands, built from the ancient stones of the Lighthouse. Nobody knows where the library stood. The greatest city of the ancient world has almost been completely forgotten. July 1798, Napoleon Bonaparte landed at Alexandria with an army of 40,000 soldiers. His fleet controls the harbor. Accompanying the army are scholars, engineers, archaeologists, linguists. They saw the Quitebay Citadel, a medieval fortress built from the stones of an ancient lighthouse's stones. They are here to conquer Egypt and study its ancient past. Within a year, one of them will discover the Rosetta Stone near the Nile Delta, the key to deciphering hieroglyphics. Napoleon's invasion awakened the world to Egypt's forgotten treasures. This includes Alexandria. 1805 CE, Muhammad Ali Pasha seizes power in Egypt. He is ambitious and ruthless, and obsessed with modernization. Looking at Alexandria's neglected harbor, he sees potential. It could be a naval base, a trading port, and a gateway to Europe. Quitebay Fortress becomes his military headquarters. He initiates a large-scale reconstruction project. New quays are built, and ancient ruins are cleared to make way for modern development. Alexandria is awakening from its centuries-long slumber. 1850 CE. Alexandria is reborn as a cosmopolitan Mediterranean city. Greeks, Italians, French, Armenians, and Jews all came for trade and opportunity. European architecture rises along the Corniche. With its grand hotels, theaters, and cafes, Alexandria becomes the most European city in the Arab world. The Quitebay Citadel still stands guard over the harbor. The population exploded from 8,000 to 150,000. This is not ancient Alexandria, but it's magnificent in a completely new way. November 1869. The Suez Canal opens. Egypt becomes the crossroads of global trade. Ships no longer sail around Africa. They cut through Suez. Alexandria's harbor becomes a major stop on the Europe to Asia route. The Quitebay Citadel stands guard over the busiest harbor in Africa. Everything flows through Alexandria: cotton, grain, passengers. The city has a population of 200,000. With its hotels, banks, and shipping companies, Alexandria is thriving. This is the golden age of modern Alexandria. 1881 CE. Egypt is drowning in debt from loans taken out with European banks to build the Suez Canal and to modernize the country. Britain and France now effectively control its finances. Egyptian nationalists, led by Colonel Ahmed Urabi, rise up crying, "Egypt for the Egyptians! Egypt for the Egyptians!" The Quitebay Citadel became a symbol of Egyptian resistance. However, Britain saw Egypt as, quote, too strategically important to lose. The golden age of Alexandria is about to end. The British fleet is coming. 11 July 1882. The British fleet bombards Alexandria. For 10 hours, the Royal Navy ships shell the city. The Quitebay Citadel fires back, its ancient walls taking direct hits from modern naval guns. Hits from modern naval guns. Forts collapse. Buildings burned. The cosmopolitan city, Greeks, Italians, and French people, who had all contributed to the city's prosperity, flee in panic. Riots erupt. Parts of the city are on fire. By the time the British Marines land, the city is in ruins. The Golden Age is over. The British occupation begins. September 1882. British troops occupied Alexandria. The damaged but Quite Fort, which is still standing, becomes a British military outpost. Many Europeans left, as the city they had loved was now gone. British colonial rule takes over. Alexandria becomes a military base and colonial port. Although it remains rich and beautiful, it is no longer free. Egypt is now under British protectorate. Alexandria remained under British control for the next 70 years. 1918. British Alexandria is at its peak. WWI turned it into a massive military base. There were Australian, British, and Indian troops everywhere. Then the Spanish flu killed thousands. The cosmopolitan dream was fading. 1952. Nasser's revolution brought an end to British rule. Foreigners are expelled. Greeks, Italians, and Jews are all forced to leave. Cosmopolitan Alexandria dies overnight. The Suez Crisis of 1956 followed. Nationalization. The European city became Egyptian. 1972,000. Alexandria began to decay. Reasons: overpopulation, pollution, and erosion of the Corniche by the Mediterranean Sea. Large hotels were demolished. Ancient sites disappeared beneath concrete. Quite Fortress barely survives with minimal maintenance. Alexandria has become a shadow of its former self. 2002. The Bibliotheca Alexandrina opens, paying modern tribute to the ancient library. Egypt and UNESCO built it near the ancient site. This is a symbolic gesture. While it honors the knowledge lost 1,600 years ago, it can never replace what was lost to the flames. Today, Alexandria is home to 5 million people and is overcrowded and dirty. Quite Fortress still stands. The Bibliotheca Alexandrina is a magnificent building representing knowledge. Ancient ruins are scattered everywhere and serve as a reminder of what has been lost. The city has seen everything from Alexander's dream to Ptolemy's splendor, the fall of Rome, Islamic scholarship, colonial rebirth, and the modern struggle. Even if the greatest library burns down, even if the greatest lighthouse falls, Alexandria has survived. It will always survive.